Hi everyone, welcome to this week's health tip. So today I'm going to be talking about some really good food that can also be bad. So there's good and bad with almost everything. I mean, all processed foods are all bad in general, but there's a lot of sort of health foods that people are eating that can sometimes be bad for certain people for certain reasons. So I'm going to talk about how you can kind of minimize the damage or increase the good part and decrease the bad part. So most people know things like, like seeds, nuts, grains, healthy grains. Those are sort of, staples in a lot of people's diets, and, seeds are really, really good. Nuts are really good, and grains, for the most part, are not good. But, if you're getting like ancient grains and things like that, they can be beneficial for certain ways. But most of those things contain something called phytic acid, or phytates. And I want you to think about those things. Often they're like seeds or nuts. They're sort of the part of the plant, or the part of the vegetation that wants to conserve itself, to protect itself from predators and things like that. So like, if the bird eats seeds, it wants to be able to maintain itself so the bird will fly somewhere else, and then it'll poop, and then when it gets into the soil and there's a nice warm fertilized soil, then that seed will sprout open, and then you can have another plant growing somewhere else. So that's how they're kind of propagating themselves. But while they're the seed and while they're in their nut form, they're actually sort of, and they're trying to protect themselves, and they're protecting their nutrition on the inside. So it actually makes it hard for humans if we don't really have the phytase enzyme. There's an enzyme that certain bacteria, or like cows and things like that, ruminants we call them, those animals have this enzyme that can break all that stuff down, so they get the nutrition. Like, we can't really eat hay, but cows can eat hay and grass and they get nutrition out of it, but we really don't do that because we don't really have that. Some of the healthy bacteria in our intestines can do that a little bit, but if somebody has like a really high vegetarian diet and they're really depending heavily on the seeds, the nuts, and the grains, these things, we actually call them anti-nutrients, because it actually draws, it can actually bind things like iron, calcium, zinc, and some other really important minerals that are important for your body health. So it can actually cause deficiencies in those. So that's one thing. So the other thing is something called oxalates. So oxalates are found in the healthy green things, so like spinach, we call them Brussels, things that have the brassicas, like broccoli, cabbage, Brussels sprouts. So these are really healthy foods, like even spinach. People are doing their spinach salad all the time and all that kind of stuff. And certain nuts have these kind of things as well. So oxalates are fairly high. We also consider these anti-nutrients as well. And they can end up precipitating out in the body and causing oxalate stones, which might end up being kidney stones and those kind of things. So, somebody thinks they're doing a good job eating all these spinach salads, and then they're bent over with a kidney stone for some reason because of all these problems. So I want to talk about the best way to sort of remediate that, because in the end, those are actually good foods. They're healthy. They have a lot of great nutrition, like nuts and seeds and all those. They're going to have lots of, essential fatty acids and lots of minerals and everything else. And there's all sorts of great stuff that comes out of these. And of course, all the cruciferous vegetables, which are some of these over here, they're some of the best things you can have for your liver, for detoxifying your liver. Like all those cruciferous vegetables are great for liver cleansing and stuff like that. So they're all important, but we just kind of need to look at maybe how we prepare them a little bit. So the best modes or means of actually decreasing the bad part of all these things is to do something called sprouting. So you can actually get sprouted these seeds and vegetables and things like that. So if you go to the health food store, you have to usually go there. But they actually have small containers of sprouted broccoli, sprouted soy, because soy is another one, by the way, soybeans, and they're a big one on this chart too. So you could get sprouted soy, or make sure you're getting organic if you're getting soy, because 99% of the soy now is almost all genetically modified, so you want to try to get organic sprouted soybeans if that's what you want to eat. The highest nutritional value, from my understanding, is sprouted broccoli seeds, actually. So getting sprouted broccoli is amazing for its high density of so many vitamins and minerals that are available in that. So you can get sprouted things. So let's say you're doing grains. Obviously, ideally we want people to limit grains as much as possible, because we're not really made to eat those very much. But if you are going to get grains, you want to do a couple of things. Get ancient grains and ancient sprouted grains. So the best bread, if you have to get bread, is called Ezekiel bread. I've mentioned that before. There's a company called Silver Hills, which also makes sprouted organic grain bread as well. And ideally, you actually want to, sometimes people think they got this idea that grains are healthy, and we've been kind of brainwashed that, so they think if they have like a 9-grain bread, it's actually going to be better. But having so many of these bad things for us, and that, so many grains and so many different types of gluten and gliadin proteins and all those things that can be devastating, I just try to stick to one. So just get like kamut bread, or or a millet bread, or an ancient grain bread that's just one item. It's not made out of like 15 different things. Okay. So sprouting you can actually do at home if you want to. So if you take let's say you take your almonds, take your fresh almonds, put them in a bowl of water, fill it up. I would actually add some real salt to that, and you can just cover it overnight. Some people say to put it in the fridge, but I think if it's warm, it's actually simulating the nut being in a soil where it's actually going to germinate and start letting out the good stuff so it can grow to be a massive tree. All that energy is getting liberated when it's ready to grow. So because of that liberation of the sort of the blockage system, then all that energy becomes available for you when you eat it. So you sprout it, you put the almonds in water, add some sea salt, cover it, leave it overnight. In the morning you drain it off, you rinse them again. You could do that again if you want to, but usually overnight is fine. And then from there you would actually spread them out on like a cookie sheet or a big sheet. Some people would, if it's warm outside, you could put it outside and just let it sun dry. Some people just put it at low heat inside the oven for a fair stretch of time, for a couple of hours at low heat to actually dry it. If you want to add some flavor to it, you could actually brush some coconut oil on it, maybe a little olive oil you could brush on it too, add some real salt to that, and then you warm it up and you really got a nice treat. So then you have sprouted organic, if you're using that, or sprouted organic almonds with some good healthy fat from the olive with coconut oil and some healthy sea salt. That's a great combination of things right there. Some companies are getting smart, and if you look for it, you can see it in the health food stores. There's actually sprouted pumpkin seeds, sprouted pumpkin seeds with sea salt, or those kind of things. So those are great little snacks you can look for. So always look for sprouted grains, sprouted beans. Okay, so if you buy beans, most of the time, beans are come in a can. They're already in water, but what I would do is drain them, put them in water again, add some salt, and then do that overnight as well. And especially garbanzo beans and things like that, you really want to sprout these things as much as you can. And you can see it too, when a bean or a seed is sprouting, you can actually see like a little thing coming out of it. It looks like a little tail. So you'll have the bean like that, and then you'll actually see this little wormy thing coming out of it. That's actually like it's starting to dig into the ground and start to put roots in to grow the tree or the bush or whatever it is. That's where all the energy is, right there. Okay, so when that happens, it's liberating a lot of nutrition for you that can be bioavailable for you. So other things that can help this too is fermenting. So you'll know that in the next 5 or 10 years they're going to talk about how important fermenting vegetables is. So you're going to be looking for sauerkrauts and fermented cabbage and fermented carrots and different things. They do a lot of fermenting. You can look for those things in the health food stores. They have little bigger jars of fermented foods, miso, whatever you want to call it, that too. Those kind of things. You can also look for tempeh, which is a sprouted soybean product too, that can sometimes be used as a meat alternative and that kind of thing. So that's just sort of one way to look at some foods, because you hear a lot of different things about where beans really aren't that good, or they are good, and they're sort of a combination of proteins and carbs and all that stuff, but if they're sprouted you can do it much better. Almonds and nuts, great, you don't want to overdo them. I always tell people, if we're lucky in North America, because you get a package of pistachio nuts and they're already hulled, and you just have to pop them in your mouth. But if you were finding them in nature, you'd have to take your time, crack them open. You wouldn't be eating loads of them because it would take you so much time to actually do that. So I always tell people, try not to do much more than like a handful of nuts if you're going to do them during the day. And so that's your health tip for this week. So hopefully that was helpful. A lot of information, but hopefully it gives you an idea of how to improve the quality of some of the good food and some of the bad food, but just trying to make it better for you in general. If that was helpful, please share it, and we'll look forward to you in the next health tip. Bye.